When I was a senior researcher at T-Labs, Deutsche Telekom Laboratories in Berlin, um, I had the opportunity, maybe privilege, I will explain why, to attend a talk by, I think, Israeli computer scientist, female, I don't remember her name, working on, I think, distributed computing. And she said something extremely interesting. It made me think a lot. And what she said was that she she is a scientist. Uh, she does not make recommendations on what to do or not to do. She studies. Um, it's my interpretation, maybe um, um, phenomena and objects, etc. Computers, maybe. Okay, so, but she does not make recommendations. I think this is an excellent viewpoint. So I was really impressed by that and looked up her website. And I didn't read any of her papers. I just looked. There was a quote. I found. I thought it was hers actually, but apparently there's a song. It's a verse, a lyric in the song. It's in the description below. That says, from the sharks in the penthouse to the rats in the basement, it's not that far. So this is both an optimistic, right? It sounds like the obvious is like it's a very pessimistic view. It's both optimistic and pessimistic, but it describes reality. So, as I think about it, really describes her viewpoint. So, the fact that the rats in the basement and the sharks in the penthouse are not very far, the penthouse and the basement, it's true. It's both optimistic and pessimistic, um, and very characteristic of American culture. Understand that when I was in Jerusalem, in Israel, I felt very nostalgic with the States. There were many Jewish people that had the American, like, let's say, etiquette, and I thought it was a very vibrant city, etc. Very deeply spiritual and intellectually stimulating and vibrant. So the real topic of the real topic, I'm trying to mimic what a nice thing I said the other diary entry. The real topic is definitions. So, in my opinion, um, the biggest weapon is definitions. So, I want to um, talk about something I had thought about many times and a lot. It concerns a person that was and is dear to my heart here in Greece. So, that person, I will refer to it in the past because that's more appropriate. So that person was a psychologist working with children with disabilities. And so I was discussing with her, and I asked her, how do you find out if a child, a person, or whatever, has this type of disability or syndrome or mental shortcoming? And she naturally responded, I do a test. It didn't exactly happen like that. And so I think it was extremely strange that a specialist in treating these things has to do a test to find out if a person has the disability. The natural question that comes to mind is, how do you decide if your work with that person or child is has progress, and how do you decide if it has been cured? I suppose there are tests throughout the whole process to find out how well you're doing, which is not true, of course. So I'm kind of ironic here. Definitions are an extremely difficult thing to make and create, even in mathematics. So, in my opinion, the most important definition, I will leave this vague. I don't mean all of everything, but the most important definition I have came across is Hamilton's definition of a vector, according to Marsden's book on. I will put the link in the description below. So Hamilton defined the vector 100 years after Newton did the Principia, which makes me really want to read the Principia. How was he able to do differential calculus and describe a three-dimensional trajectories without having defined the vector? I had asked a friend of mine, who I was very honored to find out he had ascribed to me the colleague thing at the time where I wasn't. And I told him, let's go and find out the errors in Newton's Principia book. He responded that this is very well studied and there are no errors. So Hamilton defined the vector 100 years later, and probably so Newton described some ideas mostly and rigorously showed they make sense rather than actually. So let me respond to the TED talk that is in the description below. So it is important to raise the debate that addiction is an issue, but if you, I don't really know the name, I just heard it, so I don't want to look it up. But if you put millions of Americans or whoever else is going to follow in other countries, if you put them the label of being sick without thinking about it a lot and without having plans to recover from this situation, this is one of the biggest, greatest disasters I can ever think of that can happen to your country or the other countries that will follow. So that person says he has, as far as I understand, been hospitalized for a good reason. So there is a part of America where medical care is extremely good. I would want to have the privilege of having such care. Probably his experience was that. But you cannot offer this care to millions of Americans without a very concerted plan, which will take a long period of time to accomplish. So I hope the work must be done in this direction. But if you call millions of probably more people sick without knowing what you're doing. It's a time bomb waiting to explode. But I think it is very good that he raised this point. He expressed his opinion in the debate. I looked up Wikipedia. Public policy people tend to make decisions very hastily, in my opinion. And what I believe should be done here is to sanitize the academic system, which is not working. CF, the financial crisis in Europe and Greece. So, I said this with all due respect to his courage to take the speech. Maybe that's Greek expression, I don't know. To take the speech and express his opinions. And I believe we need to think very carefully about addiction and all of these things. He has a point, but we also need to think extremely carefully how something like this can be done properly. And I have said this many times. I have said it on Facebook. I have commented on it on YouTube, and I will say it one more time. All that is drunk does not blither.